Absolutely, right. So it could be something that simple, and that might be the goal for that short exercise. Commands, imperative, press here, then press there. Yeah, excellent, excellent. So linguistic ones you can hear right away. Communicative ones, rhetorical, pragmatic, or semantic devices that are used. Again, even in that short 30-second clip, there were greetings, as you talked about. What else?
If we were to teach ESL visit, it would be this thing that, did you buy a home? Did you? The short question.
Did you? Did you? And so that wonderful intonation, actually, that my students assure me does not exist in English when we teach them the Russian. Avui. Right? Avui. Right? And what about you? Did you? Well, did you? So we do have ikachapiti. We do have that in English, right? So absolutely. In fact, I might even put that somewhere between communicative and linguistic. It's a little of both.
Yeah, they could practice different kinds of, not just with did and do, but with other auxiliary
all kinds of auxiliary helping verbs, absolutely. And what about cultural information in that piece?
Well, that guy's a doofus, the one with
yes. We kind of, and in fact, there's a whole, if we took this up to the advanced level, goodness, what a native-speaking audience is the first thing, when I was playing with this, as I said, at Chicago and other places, the first thing they said was, does anyone still have an above-ground swimming pool? And a lot of you said, yes, yes, around the audience.
It's also a very American thing. It's like, if you look at it racially, it's this white guy who sort of bought a house and looks like a man of like he's obviously not a white-collar worker.
So he's of means because he did buy a house or a car, whatever we want to put in parentheses. Did you buy a whatever, right? So he's got means, but not huge means, or he'd have a real swimming pool, right? Not an above ground, and he'd have someone else filling it for him, right? There are all these wonderful little telling things, even in that short video. All right, you're getting the feel of this. Again, this one's for you now. This one entirely for you. So I'm not going to give this one any setup at all, other than it's a television advertising. Yeah? You ready? Okay. Da. Готовы? Поехали.
Hey, baby. How was Vegas?
Oh my gosh, so much fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, I got pictures.
Is that a sketchbook?
Yeah, finally putting my art major to use. There's the pool, the club, the after party. Selfie! I have so many selfies in here. Oh, shopping. Oh, she's gonna hate that picture. She looks terrible.
So good. That's some people. So we've got some native, near native, or second language speakers of English who clearly got this. What I love here is that, unlike the first one, which I think does require some teasing out to say, well, what could you do with this at the beginning level? No problem. As we start moving, I watched my own, workshoppers kind of, okay, you could do this, you could do this, and then you could tease it out. This one's kind of fun because it's got some really good, simple, basic language, and then very quickly you can see how this could turn into a whole discussion at the advanced level. This really can become hypothesizing, which we want our students to do at advanced to a superior. It can become almost philosophical at the superior level of what's going on in that little short video. Yeah. Okay, so let's do the same. I'll put up the same things in. So, goal of the assignment. What are the lexical grammatical bits, and what might they have gotten from this site? So, give me just a handful of examples from this. Anything else? Start with simple. Let's start with the second focus. Language, grammar, pragmatics. What jumps out at you first? It's kind of a teachable moment or two. So, real simple greetings.
Yeah. But also like very American, so much fun. It's like it's an expression, set expression.
So much fun. So much fun.
Doesn't mean anything.
No. Right? So how would you say, oh, we had so much fun? It's almost contentless, except that it's positive. It's more positive than negative.
But then it's also some pastimes, swimming pool,
yes.
Swimming, entertainment, shopping.
So, again, for those of us
in
leisure time, right? What do you do when you're off? So, right. So even if you had zero cultural knowledge, let's say I really am teaching this text in Morocco, and no idea what is Las Vegas, really, what is it all about? Well, make some assumptions then. If it's about visiting Las Vegas, what do you think, as it were,
Right.
happens in Las Vegas? Oh, disco, swimming, shopping, right? And you can do all those, which is, yes, it does. That's at the beginning level. That's at novice, novice high, intermediate, low. But once I kick it up a bit, what do you think happens in Las Vegas?
Well, with the shootings lately.
Well, okay, you don't know about Las Vegas. You don't know Las Vegas. You're a student. You have no. So in this case, let's say I'm doing it for what's it in our text? It's Zvenigorod. I have no clue what's in Zvenigorod, but I see the video and now I have some idea. So I've seen this video. What do I now think might be going on in Vegas?
It's a vacation destination.
Holiday place, yes. So we get the sense it's vacation. It's where you go off and vacation. Great. So that we do want. But now let's say I'm kicking it up to a higher level.
People go from kind of steam to something where they don't know what other people know about.
There it is, right? The question that's not asked in this, of course, is, and the students can ask very early on, actually, even at the intermediate level, why doesn't she have pictures? Where are the pictures? Why does she pull out her cell phone, right? Right? Selfies? Selfies? You don't take selfies on a sketchbook, right? And so why isn't she showing us pictures? So that question, which is a very simple yes, not so much yes, no, it's why, but a simple question we could say, why doesn't she show us pictures instead? She shows us sketches. That at the intermediate low level they can say, she doesn't have a cell phone. She doesn't have a phone. She doesn't want to waste her minutes, her data. I don't know, right? We can keep it really, really low.
She can't afford a phone.
She can't afford a phone. She can't pay for a phone, right? Very practical.
Absolutely.
But as soon as we can take it a little higher is the students can now say what they're thinking in their native language, but can't maybe not yet get in their target language. Now at the advanced level say, she doesn't want him to know what she did. There's no proof of what she did, right? So no pictures, no proof. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, as the line says at the end, right? So you can see we take that all the way up. And then at the bottom, by the way, and I love this, is always the visual vocabulary is without any comprehension except the most basic of the text. In backward design says one should be able to now pull information from the text simply based on the learner's background knowledge. So if I just show that video, even with no language, turn the volume off, just show it, play it, and say, who are they? Who are they? How much can we say? How much can we surmise if you imagine just seeing the two?
They're a couple.
They're a couple.
They are
right?
speaking intimately, friendly, hey babe.
So we don't hear that at
Oh,
first.
you're not
I want
hearing
you to say,
that,
just looking at the picture,
They're
right? This is
hugging.
assuming zero. So it's a couple, a pair. Are they, what's their relationship? We don't know. And that we don't know, right? We don't actually they don't hug, kiss more than once early on, very quickly at the beginning. So they still could just be acquaintances. Okay, culturally, there's a lot that we get even in that very, very simple frame. But when we add the sound, right, the mode of address now, at least they have to be boyfriend, girlfriend, couple, at least for him to say, hey babe, right, at least. So cultural information pulls in there as well.
It's also interesting that it's a woman who's coming back from Las Vegas.
Yes. So, he says, this was a very, very shortened version of a longer workshop that I wanted to just give you really food for thought. I'm giving you a chance to kind of think of the simplest, shortest text, right? A 30-second bit of commercial video. But I don't like that. That sounds too aggressive to challenge you, but to ask you to think about, even as you do a day-to-day lesson, even if you've already got your syllabus worked out, as you walk into class tomorrow, think ahead. Literally, what is it that they should come out with? Start with the outcome. By the end of this 75 minutes, or by the end of this 50 minutes, the student should now be able to do this, or know that, or have seen this, which they hadn't done before. Right? And then think backwards. Then build it backwards. So what would I need to then do? What text would I have to give them? What kind of preview? What do I assume they've done at home? Right? More and more we're relying on that assumption being fact. Okay, I'm going to count on the fact that at home they did read the grammar section. They did practice. They did listen to the text to practice their for pronunciation, let's say, whatever. So, comments, questions, your own, yes, please.
So do you, when you come to choose material, do you
Yes.
first find the piece and then say, what can I do with this? Or do you do the opposite and say, no, I want my students to be able to do this or find this, and then we go out and then look for the text that will be able to enable them to do that?
So backward design says, which I like, it would be the second. I want to say, in order to get at this, what kinds of texts challenge or work on these kinds of things, right? So I do think in terms of right away, so I'm saying, so if I'm working with right now, because I'm working a lot, I'm doing high-level work in a debate class in Russian. So all the texts I'm looking at are argumentative, establishing position with some great force. So what right away do I do? Well, the simple one, I look at political debates. That's the easy one. But I've also taken film clips that I'm using in class as well from crime dramas and all where they show courtroom scenes, where I actually show lawyers talking to each other in Russian. So I do think what genre would best fit, possibly. I also, and you probably are like this too, right, is once you become a foreign language-y, freaky person, you start, whenever you watch anything on television, you start thinking, ooh, I'm going to use that to teach imperatives. That's right. I'm going to remember to come back to that when I need the imperative in film or something, yeah. But I do tend to think back simply on functions and what's behind them and what kind of film or what kind of things like, television, radio, whatever, would use those kind of forms in them, yeah.
So I do that, but I often find it like it's very time consuming. And of course you often
It is,
text
and
find that one.
What's cool is we've talked about this in designing the intensive courses that we now use in a number of our classes, languages at UT. It's a lot of work to set it up. Maintenance is not so bad. Actually, I'm at this point where I think maintaining the websites and all the materials that we've collected over now several years of doing the intensive Russian, as it is in Arabic, is less time in preparation than I would have in a traditional classroom of preparing. What do I want to bring into class and all? Because actually updating material that's already there or maybe replacing some things that just aren't appropriate anymore, really quick. It's really fast to do. Or websites that just aren't there, they go away. You do have to watch all of those kind of things, but setting it up the first time, yeah, that's the whole summer to set up the fall. It really is. It does take a lot of time. And that's one thing about the flipped classroom. It is very, well, I think it's true with almost any method that's different from what we've been using. The initial investment of time and energy is great. And there's no question, I think it puts off a lot of instructors from changing. That's why we tend to be, as a profession, sometimes leaning toward being conservative, of saying, why, if we change everything and we're not sure we're going to get better outcomes, why would I go and change everything that we've been using? And you always answer, because. Because, then give it a try, right? But it is a lot of time. Quite right. Another, yeah.
There's a level of me that thinks if I'm trying to create my perfect world,
That's the only one you should create.
then the pendulum swings towards student-centered, students decide what they do, and everything we're talking about seems to bring me back to the teacher-centered world because I'm controlling what we're going to do. And so it's moving me away from the teacher-centered stuff.
So in class you are. The bulk of the class is still highly student-centered. I said it's in a condensed version. So I didn't talk about portfolios or the home reading, which is a third of the class content. So in portfolios are entirely, I shouldn't say that, there is a section of them that they may choose from a menu of certain items for the portfolio that match up to what our syllabus is following, just to keep them, in a sense, on the same page as a group of students. But the remainder, that really is the minority portion. The majority portion of the portfolio, which is a third of the class, is all material that they found on their own based on their interests. It's material they may have just encountered just out there playing in the ether. I came upon a website that really just struck me as interesting, and it turns out to be, a political right-wing site that we would never necessarily want them to be looking at, and yet they pull out very quickly I now know what this is. I figured out what this site was. That's all reflected in the portfolio. And the home reading, rather than the old school days where you're quite right, we used to dictate, we're all going to read, Chekhov's The Duel. That was for my generation. Everyone, that's going to be the reading for second semester. We're all going to read it together. And some of us didn't like plays, and some of us didn't like 19th century, and some didn't like Chekhov, and some didn't like short stories, right? So instead, we let the student pick genre, type, author, content, and read at her own pace through the class, and simply report on a weekly basis, a little paragraph, what's been difficult, what's interesting, where are you in the reading kind of thing. That's it. So I don't want to give up at all the student-centered quotient. I do think that in the rarefied time we have with them face-to-face, to a great extent, that's where I think we need to lend our expertise, but not make them feel that they are no longer the focus of
There's a
instruction.
subset of that same question, which is, the second we're saying, though, that our goal is for students to be at intermediate mid.
That's absolutely true.
That's
Yes.
also imposing
Absolutely.
a
Yes.
teacher-centered goal,
Yep.
and it maybe I have students that are very different to begin
Absolutely
with,
right.
and I should have a way to modify that along the way.
I wish we could. I'm with you. I am 100% with you on that. This is now the institutional mandate, I suppose, of what it is that our programs need to put out there to prove the worth of our existence. In the perfect world, as you started your contention, if I could build my perfect course, each student would work at her own ability, potential, and desire. I only want to be able to know enough Russian to be able to navigate the food scene in Moscow. That's all I care about. I just want to eat and drink in Moscow. And that would be my perfect course. But the other person, I want to be able to have a job in a health, I'm interested in health services. I want to work, and I truly, real example from a student I had just 3 years ago, AIDS services. I want to do HIV/AIDS services in Moscow. It's the most underserved population. That's what I want to do. So I need to develop a specialized vocabulary. I need to really focus in on that. And that's a completely different reason to be doing what we're doing from almost the entire rest of my class. Can I focus my efforts on that one student? I can't, for our class's sake. But can I encourage him to go on and do that at home for the portfolio, for his home reading? Absolutely. And that's kind of the only way I can meet that balance. Because you're quite right. We're kind of bound by the institution telling us outcomes, outcomes, outcomes. What are you doing for the COLA? What are you doing for the college, for the university as a course?
But don't you think that's a valid
That's right.
construct, because the student who enters, especially like a new language course, would like to know what he's going to read, like he would, I think, from my own experience.
Well, that's
I'd like
it.
to know can I speak Swedish well enough to get a job?
Right. I think you kind of hit it as to what that tension that I think a lot of us feel. Because Orlando's coming from the position which I'm very, very in agreement with, which is language is simply not the same from student to student to student in terms of why he or she is sitting in my classroom. For my generation, it was clear. If you were sitting in a Russian classroom in 1976, you were there either to become a professor of Russian or to be a spy. Those were pretty much your choices. Really, even at a kind of rarefied place like Bryn Mawr, that was what people were in that class doing. And I can even tell you who wound up where, because we did. But now that just isn't the case. The fact that more than half, and I'm looking at my own instructors here, more than half of our classes aren't liberal arts students at all, or students, I should say, not classes. Half of our students, they're from the natural sciences, they're from engineering. I had a nursing student in my last intensive Russian class as well. We get them from all over. That's certainly true in the Arabic flagship. And there they know, by the way, the flagship students, more than any, know that the goal is the point of being in the program, that we're going to get you in a university undergrad education, we're going to get you to a superior level. And this was unheard of until the first flagships, until 2008. No university program, short of BYU actually, there you are, with the mission being built into language instruction that time abroad is actually something flagship stole part and parcel. And said clearly it's the year abroad of intensive instruction added on to the 3 years at a university that builds you, gets you to those incredible levels. So for the first time, we have university students coming out in fairly good numbers, especially in critical languages, at the advanced high to superior level. But they know that when they sign up. They're going to get a lot of money to do it, but they know that they're signing up with the goal of reaching those high standards. Yeah. I've found, and I don't know what the case is, and if you're doing more with Portuguese and Spanish, because I'll bet the client is quite different between the two, but students come in a lot to Russian saying, I'll use their vernacular first and then I'll translate the other will I be, by the end of this intensive course, will I be fluent? And first of all, I say that, well, that means nothing, fluency, whatever, but my answer is no, you won't be. Because whatever you think fluency is, it's not that. You're not going to be there. But I say, here's what you can do. And I throw up the bloody chart and show them, here are the can-dos for intermediate mid, because this is where we can get you. At the end of this 30 weeks, we can get you intermediate mid. And for the most part, there is a sense of, oh, okay.
I actually come from Martin a little bit different angle in Portuguese, and that is the student a Spanish speaker or not?
Yeah.
You see, because when we're talking about what you can do with X amount of time, if you start with a Spanish speaker for 50 hours versus the non-Spanish speaker for 50 hours, you have a whole different thing going on.
Excellent.
So that's why for me the end goal of a student being an individualized thing is really based on what do you bring to our Portuguese table? Because if it's Spanish...
Yeah, once you put heritage speakers into it, or speakers of a similar language, my formula here is completely skewed now. And you're right. The whole flipped classroom, and indeed the particulars, I think, of reverse design, are geared to starting with a relatively homogeneous group that is starting at zero.
And again, I fully realize I'm creating the perfect scenario in my mind, not the everyday.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want.
It's important too, like setting that goal like in the planet, like
sure.
Because the student that joins your class, that student wants to learn some kind of basic conversation. They don't want to learn how to read Tolstoy.
Well, and yet we'll get the one or two every time that say, why are you taking Russian? I'm not this every semester. Dostoevsky. It's still Dostoevsky. I really want to read Crime and Punishment or Brothers K in Russian. We still get those. Yes. Thank you that there's still a few of those. But Tolstoy was, again, my generation. That was one of the big reasons we took Russian. I want to read the big Dostoevskys, right? To read the big boys. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you. I was going to say, I realized I've reached my hour. I cannot thank you all enough to take some time in November. And there was the wave, Thank you. It was tremendous. You should have seen it from my side.